So on today's episode of the Woodsmith Shop, we're going to look at keeping your tools in top shape. We're going to cover everything from sharpening your hand tools to making sure that your table saw is set up for safe, accurate cuts, and how easy it is to transform a bandsaw into a precision cutting tool. You want to stick around for this episode of the Woodsmith Shop. And I think for all of us, any shop time is precious time. So we really want to get into the shop and start building some things. And the last thing we want to think about is the condition of our tools.
But you know, tool maintenance matters. Well-maintained tools will give you better quality work, will enhance your time in the shop, and there's the matter of personal safety. So tool maintenance, it's important.
It is. You know, one tool every couple of weeks or maybe once a month you go through your entire shop. Just make sure they're in top operating condition.
A little bit at a time, and it won't be a burden. Now I'm going to be taking on the table saw. I'll talk a little bit about basic maintenance and also about setting your fence and blade for accuracy. We don't want to take anything for granted with accuracy.
So I'm going to show you how to get your chisels and your plane irons sharp and keep them sharp.
I'm going to take a look at one of our most essential tools, at least in our shop, is the bandsaw. Now it can be a little bit of an afterthought. It's just a rough cutting tool, but by following some simple steps you can turn it into a fine cutting accurate tool as well. Now we're going to collect all of this information and put in some more stuff about some of the other power tools and hand tools in your shop. You'll find all of this at our website, woodsmithshop.com. So table saw first?
Let's go. The heart of a power tool workshop, it's the table saw. But a table saw needs some care once in a while. Now, a good place to start with caring for your table saw is to clean out the sawdust in the base. You know, table saws are notoriously difficult to get good dust collection on. So the sawdust tends to build up quite a bit, and we need to get it out of there for a couple of reasons. One is that it's going to impair the ability of your dust collection system to get the dust that it can. Two, eventually all that sawdust will create an environment which will start to gum up the workings of the mechanism of your saw. And third, it's a fire hazard. Now I've witnessed about 3 table saw fires, and the last one happened when I was operating the saw. So the point is, you can start a fire in your table saw, and that's another good reason to keep the base of your saw clean. So let's go ahead and get started and clean the sawdust out of this saw. Well, lots of sawdust in this table saw. There's no good way to get it out. It's awkward, it's messy, but it's got to go. Well, since we're already on our hands and knees, it's a good time to take care of the worm and worm gear, the mechanisms that raise the blade up and down and tilt it to a bevel. Now what I like to do is take a nylon bristle brush or a brass bristle brush and get in there and clean all the sawdust off the worm and the worm gear. I'll then apply a light amount of a dry lubricant. You may also want to take a little bit of aerosol oil and lubricate the steel shaft that connects the hand wheels to the mechanism. Just make sure you use a product which has lasting lubricating properties rather than a product which simply is meant to break apart rusty metal. Now many table saws that are used in garage or basement shops will show a few spots of glue, maybe a few spots of varnish, and a light glazing of some rust. So I think a good way to start is to use a Scotch-Brite pad and carefully go over the entire top of the saw to make sure that it's smooth and free of any debris. Also, make sure that you get in the miter slots. These need to be clean and smooth. With the top clean, it's time to think about putting some kind of protective coating on it. There are a lot of great products out there. What I always turn to, though, is just paste wax. Why? Because I have it. It provides a little bit of protection from rust, and it provides a very nice lubricated surface that the wood slides right across when I'm using my table saw. Cover the top thoroughly with the wax And make sure you get it down in the miter slots as well. Now, while it doesn't need the protection, it doesn't hurt to put a thin coat of wax on the balance of your outfeed table as well. That way, when you're cutting big sheets of plywood, they'll move right along. Now all I have to do is give the wax a few minutes to dry, and I'll buff it out with a clean cloth.